Please, sweetheart, Grandpa really needs you right now. He's not feeling well at all. My dad's voice crackled through the phone, thick with what I now recognize as fake concern. I sat in my small apartment in Denver, surrounded by the neatly packed suitcases meant for our long-anticipated family vacation to Hawaii. The excitement that had fueled me for weeks evaporated into concern. Of course, I'll stay, I replied without hesitation. The trip isn't important if Grandpa needs help. Those words would come back to haunt me just hours later. My name is Rachel Carter, and I'm 30 years old. All my life, I've been the dependable one, the daughter my family could count on. But that loyalty was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. For months, I had been looking forward to this trip. It was supposed to be our first real family vacation in years, me, my parents, my younger brother Jake, and a few other relatives. I had even taken time off from my job at the law firm, bought new summer clothes, and planned every detail down to my snorkeling excursions. But the moment my dad called, saying Grandpa had been rushed to the hospital, all of that faded into the background. Family comes first. That evening, as I was driving to the hospital, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a social media update from Jake. My heart stopped as I glanced at the screen. There they were, my entire family on the deck of a cruise ship, raising their glasses in celebration. Best vacation ever. So lucky to have such an amazing family. #Hawaii, #family time, #blessed. I slammed the brakes, my hands trembling as I stared at the picture. My parents, my brother, my aunts and uncles. They were all there, laughing, relaxed, enjoying the vacation I had been looking forward to for months. Without me, the realization hit like a punch to the gut. They had lied to me. They had deliberately excluded me, using Grandpa as an excuse. With my pulse racing, I sped to the hospital, still clinging to a shred of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was some truth to my dad's call. But when I arrived and asked about my grandfather, the nurse at the front desk shook her head. There's no record of anyone by that name being admitted. My stomach twisted. I dialed my parents' voicemail. Jake had already blocked me on social media. The betrayal felt unbearable. I drove straight to Grandpa's house, my vision blurred with tears. To my surprise, the living room lights were on. When I knocked, the door swung open, and there he was, sitting in his recliner, completely healthy and confused to see me in such a frantic state. "Rachel, sweetheart, what's wrong?" Grandpa asked, his warm voice filled with concern. The familiar scent of his old leather chair and fresh coffee hit me, making my chest tighten. As we sat in his living room, I let it all spill out. The lies, the fake emergency, the social media post that had shattered everything. Grandpa's face darkened with disappointment. "Your father called me last week," he admitted, shaking his head. "Told me to play along. Wanted me to say I'd been in the hospital if you asked." I told him absolutely not. But I didn't think they'd actually go through with it. I felt like I was going to be sick. The trip had cost nearly $3,000 per person, a luxury I had worked extra hours for, skipping nights out with friends, cutting expenses just to afford. And yet, my family had planned to exclude me from the very start. My mind raced through all the ways I had been there for them over the years, running errands for my parents, helping Jake with his college applications, visiting Grandpa regularly while Jake only came around when he needed money. And yet, somehow, I was the expendable one. "I just don't understand," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Why would they do this to me?" Grandpa sighed heavily. "I wish I had an answer. But I do know one thing, you deserve better than this." At that moment, something inside me shifted. The heartbreak was still raw, but a new feeling began to rise, a mix of anger, clarity, and resolve. They had cut me out of their lives. Maybe it was time I did the same. My reaction was over the top and that I should stop being dramatic. I stared at the message, my stomach churning. Dramatic? They had lied to me, stolen from me, and left me behind while they enjoyed a vacation meant for all of us. And now, instead of an apology, I was being told to get over it. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. I could feel the weight of Grandma's envelope beside me, the years of proof she had collected, the undeniable evidence that my family had never treated me as an equal. Grandpa walked into the living room, his cane tapping softly against the wooden floor. "You look like you're deep in thought," he said, settling into his chair across from me. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. "I just don't understand how they don't see what they've done. How they can just brush it off like it's nothing." Grandpa leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Because they don't want to see it. Admitting it would mean admitting they've been wrong for a long time." He gave me a pointed look. "But you see it now, don't you?" I nodded. There was no denying it anymore. "They've shown you exactly who they are," he continued. "So the question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?" The words hit me hard. I had spent my entire life trying to prove I was worthy of their love, their approval. But maybe I had been chasing something that was never mine to begin with. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Emma. "Also, you're embarrassing yourself by making such a big deal out of this. It's just a vacation. Let it go." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Just a vacation? It wasn't just about the cruise. It was about every moment of my life where I had been pushed aside, every sacrifice I had made that was never appreciated. I turned to Grandpa. They used Grandma's money to upgrade their own cabins and leave me behind. They took the necklace that was supposed to be shared between me and Emma. They've spent years making sure I was the afterthought. I clenched my jaw. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Grandpa gave me a small, approving nod. "Good." I frowned. "Good." He smiled slightly. "You've been waiting your whole life for them to treat you differently. But now you know they never will. And that means you're free to live for yourself instead of them." The weight of his words settled over me. He was right. I had spent too many years hoping they would change, hoping they would see me the way I had always seen them, as family. But they never had, and they never would. Grandpa tapped his cane against the floor, as if sealing his point. "Now, the real question is, what's next?" I glanced at the manila envelope, then back at my phone. My family was out there, sipping cocktails on a deck overlooking the ocean, completely unbothered by what they had done to me. And I was here, finally seeing the truth for what it was. I didn't owe them my silence. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new email. If they thought they could gaslight me into letting this go, they were wrong. I attached copies of the bank statements, the emails, the photos, everything Grandma had documented. Then I added a simple message. Since I'm apparently being dramatic, let's make sure we're all clear on what actually happened. Mom and Dad, you used money that was meant for everyone to upgrade your own experience. You left me behind and lied about Grandpa's health to keep me from coming. Emma, you took something that was meant to be shared between us without a second thought. And now, instead of an apology, I'm being told to let it go. I want you to know that I see you all clearly now. You will never again have the chance to lie to me, steal from me, or use me. Consider this the last time you will ever have access to my kindness, my trust, or my time. Enjoy your vacation. You're going to need it. I hit send and sat back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for them to change. I wasn't trying to prove my worth. I was done. My hands gripped the edge of the table as I scrolled through the statements. Every line felt like another punch to the gut. My so-called family had spent my inheritance, money that was meant to help me build my future, on Emma's luxury education, her wedding, her life. Grandma's voice was steady, but there was a quiet rage underneath it. I only found out recently when I asked Michael about the trust. He admitted that your mother pressured him into releasing the funds little by little, always promising to make it right later. I swallowed hard. And no one thought to tell me? Not even Uncle Michael. He regrets it now, Grandma said, her voice softer. He trusted your mother. He assumed she was using the money for both of you. She hesitated before adding, but when he realized she wasn't, he was too ashamed to admit what he'd done. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Ashamed? He stole my future and he's ashamed. I felt like I was going to be sick. All those years I had struggled, taking out student loans, working extra shifts to afford my own rent, skipping vacations because I couldn't justify the expense, while Emma had been handed everything on a silver platter, funded by what was rightfully mine. No wonder my father had sounded so desperate on the phone. This wasn't just about a social media post anymore. If I pursued this, they could be in serious legal trouble. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Emma. You're seriously going to do this? Over some money? It's not like you were ever going to use it anyway. My vision blurred with anger. I had spent my whole life trying to be the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who put family first. And this was how they saw me? As someone who didn't even deserve what was hers? I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over my phone before I typed back. You stole from me. All of you. And now you think I should just let it go? Watch me. I ended the call with Grandma, my heart pounding in my chest. If my parents wanted me to back down, they had miscalculated. Badly. I called a lawyer. 2 weeks later, my parents finally reached out, not with an apology, but with an offer. We can settle this quietly. My mother's voice was smooth, like she was trying to convince me to take a bad deal. We'll transfer some money back to your account. You don't need to make this public. I smirked. How much? There was a pause. 50,000, she said finally. I almost laughed. You stole over $500,000 from me, and you think 50 grand is going to fix this? It's what we can afford, she snapped, her patience wearing thin. Look, Rachel, you're being unreasonable. Emma was always the one who needed more. You've always been independent. We didn't think you'd care. You didn't think I'd care? I interrupted. Or you just didn't care what happened to me as long as Emma had everything she wanted? Another silence. Then, in a lower voice, my mother said, You go through with this, and you'll lose this family forever. I let her words hang between us, let their weight settle. Then I laughed. That's the difference between us, Mom, I said, my voice lighter than it had felt in years. You think that's a threat. But after everything you've done? That sounds like freedom. I hung up. In the months that followed, things moved quickly. My lawyer filed a formal complaint against the trust, and Uncle Michael, desperate to clear his conscience, provided sworn statements that my parents had manipulated him into giving them the money. The case was strong enough that my parents had no choice but to settle. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about proving that I mattered. When the settlement was finalized, I walked away with what should have been mine all along. My parents, however, lost much more than money. Their social circle was shaken by the lawsuit, their friends seeing them for who they really were. Emma, furious that her golden life had been exposed as stolen, cut off all contact. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was free. I took my portion of the settlement and did something for me. I booked a first-class ticket to Europe, where I'd finally take the kind of vacation I had always dreamed of. Not with people who pretended to love me, but with myself. And that was more than enough. Against the floor as a surge of adrenaline coursed through me. Everything was happening so fast, but for the first time, I was the one in control. Uncle Michael and I rushed out of the cafe, barely exchanging words as we headed downtown. The family company's headquarters loomed ahead, a glass tower that had once felt so untouchable to me. But now it was mine. As we pulled into the parking lot, my heart pounded. A small fleet of police cars was already stationed outside. Officers were speaking to security guards near the entrance, and I spotted a few company employees peering through the windows, their expressions filled with confusion and curiosity. Uncle Michael grabbed my arm as we stepped out of the car. Tara, are you ready for this? His voice was laced with guilt, but also determination. I squared my shoulders. I've never been more ready in my life. We pushed through the front doors, the familiar scent of coffee and printer ink filling the air. Employees whispered as we walked past, some of them recognizing me, others only knowing me as the forgotten daughter of the CEO. I spotted my father in the distance, his suit jacket slung over his arm, moving quickly toward the elevators. My mother stood near the reception desk, her face pale as she argued with one of the officers. I didn't hesitate. Dad. I called, my voice sharp and unwavering. He froze, his fingers tightening around the handle of his briefcase. Slowly, he turned, his eyes flashing with something between anger and desperation. Tara, he said, his voice forced into something almost resembling warmth. You don't understand what's happening. Oh, I understand perfectly, I cut him off, stepping closer. You're running. Just like you always do when things don't go your way. My mother moved toward me, reaching for my arm. Sweetheart, let's just go somewhere private and talk about this. I jerked away from her touch. No more lies. No more manipulation. I held up my phone, showing the text from Emma. You were never going to pay me back. You were planning to disappear, and you were taking what was left of my trust fund with you. My father's expression darkened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Uncle Michael stepped forward, holding up the thick folder of evidence. Actually, she does. And so do the authorities. As if on cue, 2 officers approached. Mr. Carter, one of them said to my father. We need to speak with you regarding financial fraud and embezzlement. Panic flickered across his face for just a second before he forced a smile. This is ridiculous. Whatever my disgruntled brother is telling you, it's a family matter, not a criminal one. The officer didn't flinch. Sir, we have substantial documentation and an active federal investigation. You need to come with us. My mother clutched his arm. This is a mistake. We are the victims here. Her voice was shrill, desperate. Tara's been manipulated by... I let out a cold laugh. I've been manipulated? That's rich, coming from the people who stole from their own daughter for decades. My father tried again. We were only trying to protect you, Tara. If we'd given you all that money when you were young, you would have squandered it. I arched an eyebrow. You mean like you did? Like when you spent my money on Emma's private school, her wedding, and this luxury cruise you conveniently left me out of. I stepped closer, my voice low and sharp. Let's be clear, Dad. This isn't about what's best for me. This is about control. And guess what? You don't have it anymore. Security stepped in as the officers moved forward, reaching for my father's wrist. For the first time, I saw it, the sheer panic in his eyes as the cuffs snapped into place. As they read him his rights, my mother clutched at his sleeve, still sputtering excuses. This isn't happening, she whispered, her perfectly curated world crumbling around her. This can't be happening. I folded my arms. Oh, but it is. 1 week later. The fallout was swift. My parents were officially under federal investigation for fraud, and Emma, rather than standing by them, had turned on them the moment she realized she could face charges too. She lawyered up and cut all contact. Uncle Michael, despite his past mistakes, became a key witness. With his cooperation and Grandma's meticulous documentation, the case against my parents was airtight. And me. For the first time in my life, I was free. Not just financially, though taking control of the company meant I now had the power my parents had always wielded over me, but emotionally. Their manipulation, their gaslighting, their years of making me feel less than, it was over. One afternoon, as I stood in my grandmother's garden, sipping coffee, she placed a hand on mine. You did it, she said softly. I smiled, the weight on my shoulders finally lifting. No, Grandma. We did it. She squeezed my hand, then gestured toward the driveway. So, what's next? I exhaled, feeling something new settle inside me, peace. I think it's time for a vacation. She chuckled. Where to? I grinned. Anywhere I choose. The sound of my heels clicked against the pavement as I approached the entrance of Carter Industries, my heart pounding with adrenaline. The weight of years of deception and betrayal was finally coming to a head, and I had no intention of backing down now. As I rushed toward the building, my phone vibrated again. Another message from my mother. You ungrateful child. After everything we've done for you, you'll regret this. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Their threats didn't work on me anymore. I had the truth on my side. And, more importantly, I had nothing left to lose. I pulled into the company parking lot just as my parents emerged from the lobby, each carrying a box of files from my father's office. Emma was with them, her posture tense, glancing around nervously as if expecting someone to stop them. Then they saw me. My father's expression twisted, his attempt at maintaining authority slipping into something closer to panic. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice sharp, but I could hear the underlying fear. Funny. I was about to ask him the same thing. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. especially since you're removing items from my company without authorization. Emma scoffed. Your company? What are you talking about? I held up my phone, displaying the scanned ownership documents. Grandma transferred her controlling shares to me this morning, I said, watching their faces pale. And as the new majority shareholder, I'm very interested in what's in those boxes. Would they happen to contain evidence of what you did with my trust fund? My mother's face went white. You don't understand, she stammered, her voice shaking. Everything we did was for this family. I let out a bitter laugh. No, I corrected, meeting her gaze without flinching. Everything you did was for Emma. And now, you were planning to run away with what's left of my money. I turned to my sister. Did you enjoy the cruise, Emma? Was it worth it? Tears welled in her eyes, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of guilt. But it was too late for that now. Sirens filled the air as flashing red and blue lights reflected against the glass walls of the building. Unmarked vehicles pulled into the parking lot, and within seconds, FBI agents stepped out, their presence a force of undeniable authority. Behind them, Uncle Michael's car pulled up. He got out first, followed by Grandma, her expression unreadable as she surveyed the scene unfolding before her. Mr. Carter, one of the FBI agents addressed my father. We have a warrant to search these premises and to take you in for questioning regarding financial fraud and embezzlement. My father stiffened. This is absurd. The agent cut him off. We have extensive documentation, as well as multiple testimonies. Please cooperate. Emma let out a choked sob as another agent approached her. My father tried to pull her away, but she hesitated. It's over, Emma, I said quietly. The truth has caught up with all of you. She stared at me for a long moment before finally breaking down, covering her face with her hands. And just like that, it was done. Underscore 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 underscore. 3 months later. The air was crisp with the scent of autumn as I sat in Grandma's garden, sipping my morning coffee. Leaves drifted from the trees, golden and red, blanketing the ground in a reminder that seasons change, and so had my life. The FBI's investigation had revealed even more than we expected. My parents hadn't just stolen from me. They had been embezzling from the company as well. Now, they were facing federal charges along with civil lawsuits from shareholders. Emma, in a desperate attempt to save herself, had struck a deal with prosecutors. She had testified against our parents in exchange for immunity. Now, she was in Minnesota, forced to stand on her own for the first time in her life. Her last message to me had been a long, tearful apology. But some wounds run too deep for words to heal. Grandma took a slow sip of her coffee, watching me thoughtfully. Your grandfather would be proud of how you handled everything, she said. He always said money reveals people's true characters. I nodded, reflecting on the changes I had made at the company. Under my leadership, we had established a scholarship program for employees' children and created a more transparent financial system. The business was thriving not because of deception, but because of integrity. I never wanted any of this, I admitted softly. I just wanted to be treated fairly. Grandma reached over and squeezed my hand, her warmth grounding me. Sometimes life's greatest blessings come disguised as its greatest challenges, she said. You've turned their betrayal into something positive. She was right. I had found my strength, my purpose, and most importantly, my self-worth. That cruise they took without me? It hadn't been the vacation of a lifetime after all. It had been the beginning of their downfall. And the start of my new life. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. I spent my whole life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one my family could count on, even when they never truly valued me. I sacrificed, I forgave, I gave more than I should have. And for what? To be lied to? To be used? To be left behind? I know I'm not the only one who's been there. So tell me, have you ever felt like the forgotten one? Have you ever given your all to people who only took more? Have you ever been told you were being too dramatic when you were just us? Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your stories. Because here's the truth, family isn't just about blood. It's about respect. It's reciprocity. It's about asterisk value. If someone, and I need you to hear this, you deserve better. If you're struggling with toxic family members, if you're realizing that you've been giving too much to people who wouldn't do the same for you, take this as your sign. Set boundaries. Protect your peace. And if you have to walk away, then walk away. You owe it to yourself, T. So tell me, what would you have for someone you are not disposable?